Mr. Speaker, he will not make that commitment. That is very clear. All that he is doing...
I'm going to hear the questions. If the people who don't want to hear it, they can leave now. Come on.
Mr. Speaker, he will not make that commitment, and yet the world is getting more dangerous. His Chancellor's budget did not even mention defence. The Chancellor's budget last week was a copy and paste of Bidenomics. It turns out that a high spending, high borrowing, high inflation approach is less popular than she may have thought. May I suggest he now urge her to change course, or is he determined to be a one-term leader?
Prime Minister.
The one thing I learned as Leader of the Opposition is it's a good idea to listen to what the government is actually saying. I think she just said that defence wasn't mentioned in the budget. It was 7 days ago that it was absolutely clear and central to the budget, as was economic growth. We are fixing the foundations. We're giving a pay rise to millions of people. We're picking up the mess that they left, 22 billion, and a tax rise and a pay rise for working people. And I haven't heard yet her welcome that pay rise for the 3 million lowest paid workers. Does she now welcome it? Does she stick to her previous policy that it's excessive?
Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, I was the one who raised the minimum wage last year as Business Secretary. I have a strong record on this, but we need to make sure that we balance the books. His scripted lines are showing that he has not even listened to the budget himself. So I will try a different question. Perhaps he can give something that is unscripted to the people watching. Farmers across the United Kingdom... Mr. Speaker...
Order! I don't need any help. Can I just say, if somebody wants to leave, I'll be helping them do that. I'm going to hear the question, and I certainly want to hear the answer as well. So please, let's have some courtesy.
Mr. Speaker, we have heard him repeat the lines on the television, fixing the foundations and so on. But what does he say, over and over again, but what does he say to farmers who are facing uncertainty about their futures as a result of the increased taxes announced by the Chancellor? I am very clear that we would reverse Labour's cruel family farms tax. What can he say now to reassure the farming community, who provide security for the whole nation?
Prime Minister.
I'm happy to help the Leader of the Opposition. If she's going to complain about scripted answers, it's probably best not to read that from a script.
Did Kemi Badenoch, the new Conservative leader, fail at her first PMQs? Kemi Badenoch had her debut at PMQs, and unfortunately it went as expected, to be honest. She kicked off by criticising Labour's support for Kamala Harris, a weak line, and then took a swipe at Foreign Secretary David Lammy for past comments on Donald Trump. The irony here is we aren't supposed to criticise Trump, even though he can say whatever he likes. What made the session particularly difficult to watch was Badenoch's reliance on a prepared script. Whilst it's typical for MPs to have notes, sticking to a word-for-word script reveals a lack of readiness for PMQ's spontaneous exchanges. Starmer came prepared, responding swiftly and highlighting her over-reliance on scripted responses. His remarks even prompted the Speaker to call for order, as Badenoch struggled to shift away from her rehearsed lines and engaged in the real-time dialogue that PMQs demands. In PMQs, the theatre is key. Effective leaders don't just read questions, they know them by heart, ready to pivot and engage in the moment. Watching SNP's Stephen Flynn, for example, it's clear he has his questions down and doesn't need to look at his notes. Prime Ministers would typically receive questions beforehand, which allows them to craft informed responses, but opposition leaders are expected to know their lines by heart and engage fluidly. Badenoch, by contrast, lacked this ease, unable to engage with Starmer's responses without looking down at her script repeatedly. It's a worrying sign of her leadership, to be honest, isn't it? Badenoch has a steep learning curve to tackle if she's going to command PMQs effectively. Previous leaders, like Boris Johnson, as flawed as he was, had a knack for spontaneity. Even Sunak managed PMQs better without constantly relying on notes. Without developing this skill, Badenoch risks looking unprepared in future sessions and basically shit, like those two options were in the first place. But let me know what you think in the comments. I've been Jake from Just Jake, and as always, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. you actually made it to the end of the video. If you would like to subscribe to the channel, which, why haven't you already, is somewhere over there. And also, if you want to watch more videos, also check out over there. I've been Jake from Just Jake. See you later.